Welcome back to Only Talk Sports. So we talk sports every single day, or at least we try to. I'm your host Jeffrey, and subscribe to the channel if you like sports content. Hit that notification bell so you never miss another video. Now, the Arizona Bowl is between the Ohio Bobcats and the Wyoming Cowboys. Who do I think is going to win this bowl game? Let's break it down. Now, Ohio's 9-4 and 7-1 in the MAC this season, and Tim Albin's done a great job as the head coach, and he's improved Ohio from 3-9 in his first season to 9-4 this year. And Ohio's definitely improved as a football team, and they had a great season. And in week 1, they beat Florida Atlantic 41-38, and that was a good win. Then they lost at Penn State 46-10. That was a tough loss. Then they lost at Iowa State 43-10. They just were not competitive against two Power 5 teams. Then they beat Fordham 59-52. Then they lost at Kent State 31-24 in overtime. That was a tough loss. Then they beat Akron 55-34. That was a good win. Then they won at Western Michigan 33-14. Then they beat Northern Illinois 24-17. Then they beat Buffalo 45-24. Those were good wins there. Then they won at Miami, Ohio 37-21. Then they won at Ball State 32-18. Then they won against Bowling Green 38-14 in the final game of the regular season. And then they played Toledo in the MAC championship game, and they lost 17-7, and that was a tough loss. But still, Ohio's had a great season this year, and they've definitely improved, even though they were not able to finish off a special season with a MAC championship win. And quarterback C.J. Harris, he's 32-64 for 393 yards, a touchdown, an interception, 116 rushing yards, and 3 touchdowns. He's had to fill in with Curtis Rourke, their starting quarterback, who was out in this bowl game. He's injured. And C.J. Harris has done a really good job filling in for him. He is a dual-threat quarterback. He can run, he can throw. His accuracy needs work. And if C.J. Harris can keep the turnovers low and use his athleticism in this bowl game, it'll really help out Ohio. And running back C. Bangura is 197 attempts for 940 yards, 12 touchdowns, and 208 receiving yards, and 2 touchdowns. He's a great running back for Ohio, and he's definitely helped Ohio's run game this year. And wide receiver Sam Wiglas has 69 receptions for 850 yards and 11 touchdowns. He's the top wide receiver for Ohio, and Ohio has a great offense overall. And on the defense side of the ball, linebacker Kie Thompson has 96 total tackles, 45 solo tackles, 1.5 sacks, an interception, a forced fumble, and 2 fumble recoveries. Linebacker Bryce Houston has 72 total tackles, 38 solo tackles, 5.5 sacks, a forced fumble, and 2 fumble recoveries. And safety Alvin Floyd has 70 total tackles, 37 solo tackles, 2 sacks, an interception, a forced fumble. Ohio's defense has really struggled this season and given up a lot of points and yards, but if Ohio's offense can put up a lot of points, then Ohio's been able to win a lot of games this year, and this bowl game will be no different. And on the Wyoming side, they're 7-5 and 5-3 in the Mountain West, and Craig Bohl's done a good job as the Wyoming head coach, but he hasn't really gotten Wyoming to a point where they've been one of the best Mountain West programs, but they've been a really consistent program. Last season they went 7-6. This year they're 7-5 with a chance to be 8-5. So again, they've had a really solid season, and they've been a really consistent program overall. And they lost at Illinois 38-6 in week 0 of the regular season. That was a tough loss. They just could not compete against a Big Ten team. And then they beat Tulsa 40-37 in double overtime, and that was a good win. Then they beat Northern Colorado 33-10. Then they beat Air Force 17-14. But then they lost at BYU 38-24. That was a tough loss. BYU's a tough place to play. Then they lost at home to San Jose State 33-16. Then they won at New Mexico 27-14. That was a good win. Then they beat Utah State 28-14. Then they won at Hawaii 27-20. Then they won at Colorado State 14-13, so both tough, close wins there. Then they lost to Boise State at home 20-17. That was a tough loss. And in the final game of the regular season, they lost at Fresno State 30-0. That was a tough loss. And Wyoming's been a bit inconsistent this season. They've had times where they've played well, and they've also had times where they've struggled. So Wyoming's just been inconsistent all season. But they've had a good season overall. And quarterback Andrew Peasley's 126 for 245 for 1,388 yards, 9 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, and 330 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns. He's a decent quarterback. He's been injured some this season and hasn't been able to play the full season. But even when he's healthy, Andrew Peasley does struggle with accuracy, and he doesn't really give you much of a deep threat ability through the air. He does run the ball fairly well for the quarterback position, so he's kind of a dual threat quarterback. But Andrew Peasley, if Wyoming's going to be able to win this bowl game, is going to have to be more of a threat through the air. And running back DQ James has 40 attempts for 346 yards and 44 receiving yards. He's a solid running back. He's a redshirt freshman, and he's going to be starting in this bowl game because their starting running back Titus Swin is in the transfer portal, so he's really going to have to step up if Wyoming's going to be able to win. And wide receiver Joshua Cobbs has 35 receptions for 407 yards and 2 touchdowns. And Wyoming's offense has struggled this season. They haven't really had a lot of games where their offense is the reason that they won, but their offense has been decent overall. And on the defense side of the ball, linebacker Easton Gibbs is 111 total tackles, 58 solo tackles, 2 sacks, and a fumble recovery. And safety Wyatt Eckler is 64 total tackles, 42 solo tackles, an interception, a forced fumble, and a fumble recovery. And defensive end Devon Harris is 51 total tackles, 27 solo tackles, 8.5 sacks, and a fumble recovery. And Wyoming's defense has really helped them win a lot of games this year, especially when Wyoming's offense has really struggled. And Wyoming's been able to win a lot of low-scoring games because of their defense. and they'll have a chance to win this bowl game if Wyoming's defense plays really well. So who do I think is going to win the Arizona Bowl? Ohio's had a great season. Tim Albin's done a fantastic job as the head coach in his second season, really improving the Ohio Bobcats team. They had a lot of close calls in the MAC where if they lose those games, their record does not look as good, and their defense has really struggled this season. Ohio's given up a lot of points and yards. They've won in a lot of shootouts, but Ohio has a great offense, and even though Curtis Rourke is out injured in this bowl game, C.J. Harris is a competent quarterback who can run the ball and can throw. His accuracy is questioned at times, but if C.J. Harris can keep his accuracy under control, then it will definitely help Ohio out in this bowl game. And Ohio has a great running game as well, and that will really help them out. But Wyoming has a great defense, and that's helped them win a lot of games this year. Craig Bohl has a solid team. Even though Wyoming's offense has really struggled, they've been able to win a lot of lower scoring games. Even in games where they've really struggled to put up points and yards, Wyoming's been able to win because of their defense. I think that Wyoming's defense will be able to slow down Ohio's offense, and I think that Wyoming's offense will be able to put up some yards and points on an Ohio defense that has really struggled this season. But I'm going to go with Ohio to beat Wyoming 31-24 in the Arizona Bowl. I think Wyoming can win this game. Again, Craig Bohl has a really solid team. Their offense does really struggle, but I think they will be able to have a shot to win this game if they can keep it a lower scoring game, and I think that Wyoming's defense will be able to do that. I think they will be able to slow down Ohio's offense a good bit in this game, but I think that Ohio's offense will be able to score just enough on Wyoming's defense, and I think that Ohio's defense will be able to stop Wyoming's offense just enough because Wyoming's offense has struggled this season, and I'm going to go with Ohio to beat Wyoming 31-24 in the Arizona Bowl. Subscribe to the channel if you like sports content. Like this video down below. Comment down below whether you think Ohio or Wyoming is going to win this bowl game and why, and I will see you next time.